body bags where horror lies.
Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome to week 27 here on Body Bags. I'm of course your host Moodz616, and thank you once again for dropping in, guys. Alrighty, so it's Sunday and it is the start of a brand new month, so it is another theme week here, and I just want to give a big shout out to Danny for coming up with this idea. I thought this was a really awesome idea for a theme week, picking a film from the year that you were born in. Of course, I was born in 1980. Fuck. What can I say, man? I was actually struggling with this because there's so many good films that came out in 1980. Like, there's just endless choices I could have chose from. Of course, like, my favorite slasher film of all time came out in 1980, which is Maniac. Among films, I mean, just look it up. It's fucking insane how many good films came out that year. But I decided to go with this one. I haven't watched this film in a long time. Wanted to revisit it, and it's a film that I really don't hear anybody talk about, so decided to go with this one, of course, from 1980, and it's called Don't Go in the House. Yeah, it's one of those Don't Go in the House films, or one of those films with don't in the title. But before I started this, I just want to point out something here. There's a recent slasher film that came out, I believe, 2 years ago, or something like that, and I just wanted to point this out. But if you take a look at these covers here, I'm talking about The Sleeper. I just couldn't help but notice how much The Sleeper borrowed their cover art from this cover art. It's practically the exact same fucking cover. I was watching this movie and I was looking at the cover today and I was going, that reminds me of something, and I had to pull that out, and I thought I'd just point that out. But anyways, Don't Go in the House from 1980. The plot of this one. It follows your main character, Donald Kohler. Donnie is a troubled person. He comes from a very troubled past. He grew up in a house. It never mentions anything about his father, so he grew up with a very sadistic, overbearing mother. She used to torture him when he was bad. She would burn his arms, and, you know, just do real sadistic shit to him. So, you know, of course, growing up, he just developed this very kind of mental, fucking crazy attitude about certain things, and women, of course. So in the beginning of the film, he actually has an incident. He works at like this incinerator type power plant or plant or whatever. Anyways, there's an incident that happens at the beginning of the film where one of the co-workers actually gets lit on fire, and he doesn't do anything about it. He's just kind of watching that person burn. So after that, of course, he has a run-in with a couple of guys at work and stuff. They're calling him names and shit like that, and just, you know, Donnie's already an outcast at work. Everyone knows that. So he's kind of an easy target. But, of course, Donnie does nothing, so it just kind of shows his mental, you know, distractions right there. But anyways, so after that event, he goes home. And, you know, his mother is old and sick. Anyways, he ends up finding her dead one day. Now, at first, Donnie feels like, oh, he's free. Like, he can go and do whatever he wants. He doesn't have to look after his sick, dying mother, you know, and her sadistic ways and shit like that. But, you know, it soon becomes a problem for him. You know, after her death, he starts hearing voices. He starts seeing these weird visions of her, and it kind of makes him go crazy. So what Donnie starts doing is he starts going out on the town and picking up women and bringing them back to his house, and, you know, basically burning them in the ways that, you know, he was burnt. Well, not entirely how he was burnt, but the idea of his mother burning him was basically, her idea was, you know, to clear the evil from him, you know, to burn the evil out of him and stuff. So, of course, you know, his growing up was very harsh on his mentality. He takes this out on all women. He thinks all women are evil, and so he just starts killing them off one by one. So that's, you know, the premise and plot of the film. Getting into my thoughts of this one. Now, this movie has so much similarities to, like, Psycho and even Maniac, which was actually done in the same year. I think it's kind of coincidental that there's similarities between this and Maniac, but as for Psycho, it has the whole angle. After Donnie's mother dies in the film, he keeps her upstairs and she begins to rot, And then that's when he starts going really crazy in the film. He starts seeing visions of her. He starts hearing her voice and talking to him and stuff like that. You know, there's even scenes where in the film where he goes upstairs and he starts screaming at her, slapping her around and shit like that. It's kind of very reminiscent of Psycho in certain ways. You know, that whole mommy issue element to the film and how his mother is, you know. So it's got that whole kind of element to the film. It's pretty good. You know, it's a pretty good film. I think the atmosphere, it's very dark. It's shot for the most part at nighttime. You know, it's really good up until about the middle of the film. It kind of drags a little bit. There's a scene where Donnie goes to this clothing store to pick up this outfit for this disco that he's going to be attending with one of his coworkers and stuff. I think that scene really could have been trimmed down. It kind of drags a little bit. It doesn't really add anything. It actually kind of takes you out of the film a little bit. You kind of forget that, you know, who Donnie is, because he's kind of acting normal and stuff, but really he's a sadistic killer that just needs to be stopped. But, you know, that's all leading up into the third act. The third act is pretty crazy, too. You know, for the effects in this film, it's not really gory at all. There's a scene where, you know, he basically torches this woman to death with a fucking fire gun kind of thing. It looks okay. It's not the greatest effects in the world, but it's decent. It's very effective because it's pretty brutal. I think burning to death would be the fucking worst death in the world. But, you know, overall, I mean, there's a few kills and stuff, hence that don't go in the house. That's, like, the whole premise. I do like the, you know, you have been warned. I like the tagline on this. But, yeah, you know, it's just amazing how many times in the film that, he can convince women to come back to his house, you know, give him a ride. He's like, oh, I gotta go drop this off at my house first. You know, it's kind of ridiculous how easy the women give into it, but, you know, overall it's a pretty good film. It's very dark. It just has a very dark type feel to it. Like I said, the middle drags a little bit, but, you know, it's kind of it does hurt it a little bit. If I had to rate it, I'd probably give it about a 7 out of 10. You know, it's nothing too crazy. As for the guy that plays Donnie, Dan Grimaldi, he reminds me of like a young Dustin Hoffman, his look to him. He looks very much like Dustin Hoffman. His acting, I've never been able to figure out if it's really good or if it's just kind of mediocre. He stutters a lot. He's very nervous in the film. But if that's the way, like if he's not like that, then I think his performance is really good. So, you know, like I said, it's a low budget film. It's acted pretty well. It's got a pretty good atmosphere. It's definitely worth checking out. This is the Shriek Show edition. Pretty good transfer, anamorphic widescreen. Pretty good for what you're going to get. Not really a lot of features and stuff, but I do recommend this for a watch. I mean, if you like these type of films, definitely check it out. It's not like a full-blown slasher film. I guess it's more of like a maniac type, I guess, serial killer film in a way. I mean, he's not really stalking and slashing. He's more picking up and killing. But, you know, it's overall, it's a really cool film. I mean, I really dig the cover art on this. It's fucking awesome. I mean, and obviously so did the makers of The Sleeper. I still can't get over these covers, man. They're, like, identical. It's fucking hilarious. I know this is meant to be a throwback film, but that's just ridiculous. But, yeah, Don't Go in the House. I do recommend it. Give it a shot. It's pretty fun, so I think that's all I got to say about Don't Go in the House. There's not really a whole lot to say about it. It's a short film. It runs just over 80 minutes. But I think that if, you know, like I said, if they had taken out the middle part of the film, just kind of trimmed it down a little bit, maybe extended a couple more of the scenes, it would have been a lot better film, but it's worth it. Worth checking out. So, anyways, guys, cheers, and I will see you guys next Sunday. Next week is not a theme week, so we're free to do whatever. Check out Danny's video tomorrow, and I'm out of here, guys. Peace.